What is up, Facebook land? Well, this wasn't exactly how I was planning tonight to go. But with anything you do a live show, that's what happens. Just give you an update on what happened with Eric Bostrom. First of all, have you ever seen the motorcycle racers that get down on like one knee when they're turning the corner at like 200 miles an hour? He's one of those guys, and he was one of the best to ever do it. He was recommended to me by Dave Swanson, who's another podcaster and speaker, who had him on his show, and I jumped at the chance. So, and he's also an inventor. He has this thing called the Backmate. If you go to mybackmate.com, I think is what his website is. Pretty cool invention. So I wanted to talk about that as well. He will be back on another day. We're going to reschedule him. But what happened was Facebook, like if you do a Facebook Live, it only recognizes if you're going to invite other people on, it only recognizes personal Facebook pages, not like fan pages or groups or like my business page. I couldn't do a live from. So when I tried to get onto the website, and I didn't even think of that until we got into the mix of figuring out we couldn't get on. But now that we know, so he's going to create a Facebook page for specifically for the show, so that when we get him on, it won't be a problem. So shit happens. So I figured, what the hell, let's do a show. And this is, whether I count this or not, I'm not 100% sure, but this is my 50th episode, which is pretty cool. When I started down this Facebook / podcast / all the other stuff I'm doing with the podcast, I never really dreamt that I would get to 50 episodes. I didn't really know what I was going to do past one, to be honest with you, but I've had some pretty cool shows, and every one of them, had their own unique specialness to me. I really enjoyed, the first one I did was my buddy Reg Butler, who was just an amazing show, and he's just a great dude, and a retired sergeant major in the Army. Just texted me a few minutes ago, actually. He was part of the Nat Geo TV series called The Long Road Home, which detailed the battle that he was in Iraq. And it was also a book written originally by Martha Raddatz, who's an ABC correspondent. So that's pretty cool. Having him on and to be my first one was just really cool, and took a lot of the pressure off, because I was talking to a friend. So, Vince Papali, Lou Tilley, Brian Propp from Flyers legend, Kurt Schilling, Mickey Ward, who was, if I'm being honest, like I was the most kid in a candy store when I got to interview Mickey Ward, because I just always loved his style of boxing. And we had met about 10 years ago, maybe not 9 years ago, in Tulsa, Oklahoma, when I was managing a boxer, and he was in the airport. And she's just got that voice, that iconic Boston voice. And just to be able to sit and talk to him about his trilogy wars with Arturo Gatti was just amazing. And then to talk about the movie The Fighter, which Mark Wahlberg played him in the movie, that was just, I was on cloud nine. So that was one of my best moments of the 50. Kurt Schilling, an amazing interview. If somebody would have told me to bet $1 million on what I would have talked about for 56 minutes out of the 60 minutes, I would have guessed baseball every single time. And I think we talked baseball for 4 total minutes. And that to me was just a really awesome interview, because it was completely not what anybody would have expected. And it's not what I expected. And I'm pretty sure it's not what Kurt expected. But he's agreed to come on again later on. We're going to try and set something up for maybe either right around playoff baseball or right after the World Series, depending on his schedule. Then I had some amazing, just, average people that came on, my buddy, Kelly Venden, who was former Delta Force guy. He's actually the highest viewed show and the highest listened to audio podcast on all my podcasts. He was part of Operation Acid Gambit, where they rescued the American radio DJ who was held in prison in Panama under Noriega. They went into Panama and rescued him out of prison. Huge firefight, and his helicopter got shot down, and he broke his legs and was knocked unconscious and got shot a bunch of times. So that was just an amazing interview with a buddy who I was proud to work with in the Air Marshals. And so it was just an awesome chance to hang out with a friend. And he called in from Afghanistan. Who does that? It was like 4 a.m. When he called in. So that was pretty neat. And you could tell by the internet signal, it wasn't great. But it was still a great episode. Brock Mueller is a buddy of mine who was paralyzed and is now walking, just sharing his journey. Jillian Neely, of course, from Fox News Channel, who's a close friend of mine, who I was the only time I've ever done an away episode where I was actually at her place doing the show, which is pretty cool. It was just an amazing 50 episodes, and I'm just super excited. I'm going to be going to a new podcasting platform in September, and more than likely going to be doing the show from inside of a studio. I'm not 100% sure on that yet because there's some logistical things that have to be worked out, but the opportunity's there. And as long as it doesn't interfere with how my vision for the show and how I want things to be, then I'm probably going to do it. I'm not going to be doing Facebook Lives once I make that switch. Still be doing video interviews, but I'm not going to do Facebook Lives. And then there's a way that I can say it's live, but it was actually recorded and you think it's live, but I'm not sure if that has value or not. And I'll explore it to see if it does. Maybe I'll test it. But yeah, I'm excited about the move and just trying to find a new way to do the show better and, but not mess with the simplicity of it, which is what I love about it. The minute it becomes work, the minute it becomes something that I'm not looking forward to doing, then I'll just stop. But right now I'm just having a blast with it, and I love sharing stories. And I got a really good one on Wednesday, a guy named Frank Hickson. Many years ago, I met a high school kid when I was doing security for the Maxwell Football Club, and he won the Maxwell Player of the Year for the high school, and his name was Ryan Greiser. And we just stayed connected all throughout his life since then. And he actually came to work for me at Max Out when he graduated college, and in between playing a little bit of arena ball. And I'm friends with his mom and his wife and everybody. And anyways, Frank Hickson was his coach at Liberty University. And Frank is he's coached everywhere at all levels. Had to quit coaching because he got MS. And now he's an MS warrior, just out there trying to find ways to help people with MS and to find a cure. So I'm really excited to have him on Wednesday at 7. And I already did a test run with his to make sure everything's working, so we're good for Wednesday night. I'm very excited for where I'm at. I had this morning, if everybody remembers the episode where I was interviewed on my show by John Kane. John's one of those guys that just sort of I can call and talk to about anything. And he's always got really sage advice and sort of keeps me grounded and helps me work through any questions I might be having in my head. And so this morning he texted me and said, hey, let's grab it. Or the other night he texted me and said, let's grab a call this morning. So we did. And I was really happy with where I'm at. Like I didn't have a whole lot to bitch about with him and complain about or work through. And for the first time in a really long time, everything's sort of where it's supposed to be in my life. Police work has its spot, and it's not pulling me away from anything. And for those of you to know, I'm not necessarily super cop anymore. And I'm on the back end of that. And I love working for Collegeville, and I love working with the guys I work with, and I love my job itself as far as I enjoy being in Collegeville. I don't necessarily enjoy being a cop anymore. It's just not 26 years of problems that I've had to deal with, and I'm just tired of solving everybody's problems, to be honest with you. And it's not any one particular thing. It's just I'm running out of gas. So at some point in time, I got to figure out how to close that chapter of my life down. But until something else puts itself in a position where it has to take that spot, then being a cop is where it's going to be. And I'm lucky that I have a great group of guys and a boss that supports the stuff that I do outside of police work. And I try to make sure that I represent Collegeville well, and that I'm a good public relations guy. But I'm not, my days of running down alleys and kicking down doors, they're hopefully in the past, and obviously I'll do what I have to do if the moment arises, but it's not something I'm jumping out of bed to do anymore. So Max Out is launching the new product, and our partnership with Mike Barwis is even stronger than it has been since we brought him on board. The original Max Out plan that we had in 2011, about 2010, early 2011. And it's just exciting to have me, Jason, and him working closely together again, and just like it was when he was at Michigan. And I'm excited to launch this new product and get people excited about it and see where it can take us. I think that the sky's the limit with us, and this could be a really big thing in the strength and conditioning world. It could be a really huge thing in the neuromuscular, neurological rehabilitation world. There's so many different ways it can be utilized. And then obviously we have the patents, and those patents can be used in many other different forms. So the potential is endless. We've just got to make sure that we are smart, and we do it with a plan, and not just flying off the seat of our pants like we have in the past. And, I'm excited for Max Out. I've never not been passionate about Max Out. I've never not believed in what it can do. There's been some highs and many, many lows throughout the last 10 years, but I wouldn't trade them for anything, because it helped me become a better businessman. It helped me believe in myself in areas where I wasn't necessarily super confident. And it helped me to realize my potential for empathy and compassion. And I think that's one of the things I learned the most about Max Out, is just being able to, whether it's through mentoring kids or working with people with rehab needs or whatever, just having that empathy and that compassion just really, I've always had it, but it really brought it out to another level when you're hands-on helping someone heal or helping somebody figure something out in the mentoring world. So that's been one of the best benefits of being an owner in Max Out. So one of my kids is leaving for college that I train, and I train her older brother and older sister, and they're like family to me. And so she came to say goodbye today and sent me a nice text and afterwards, and thanked me for all the help I'd given her and working her through her injuries and all that. It helps to make it all worthwhile when you hear those things. So I like that. And last week I spoke and I talked about this in a live earlier, but I was at the PA Free Enterprise Week, I guess they call it, PFEW. And it is where a bunch of juniors and seniors go to learn about business. They start a company, they form a board, they have functions and tasks. Everybody has their CEOs, CFOs, and CMOs, and COOs, and all the other OOs and Cs that you can think of. And they create a company, and they have to have a budget and business plan and all that stuff. And it teaches them how to do all that. And then they compete against each other. And there's a lot of volunteer teachers and administrators and people involved with the program, and they bring in speakers. And I was lucky enough to have been introduced to them by David Flood, who was an amazing guest. I believe episode 7. He's one of the top youth speakers in the country, and he was a guest on the show. And after the show, he said, "Hey, I'd love to introduce you to the people at PFEW." And I'm really thankful he did, because I had a blast. I talked about 300 kids, 150 each time, back-to-back 45-minute speeches. And the beautiful part about my speeches is none of them are ever the same. The meat and potatoes might be the same, but how I start and how I end usually isn't the same at all. And that's the case this time too. Each speech ended and started a little bit differently. But the cool part about being a speaker, and the cool part about talking to kids, is that when you actually hit home and you give them a piece of your heart, and you have them feel that, after the speech is when the awesome part happens. I love talking. I love giving speeches. I love telling stories to people, but the best part is when I get 15, 20 kids waiting in line to come share something with me. And I gave a lot of hugs, and there was a lot of tears, and just a lot of thank yous, and something I said resonated, and I just really that's the part, because that's when you know what you said had meaning, and that the time you spent there sharing meant something. So I really enjoy that. And if I could do that every day, I would do that every day. I know that's not feasible. I can tell you my throat was sore after 2 45-minute speeches, but I would literally try to do that every single day of my life if I could. And ultimately, that's my goal. And I was talking about John Kane earlier, and I sort of went off on a tangent. But so John helps me to see the future, helps me to see the today, helps me sort of figure out where I'm at as far as my evolution. It was 2 years almost to the day that we had first met when we talked this morning. And I'm just at a really good spot right now where just everything has balance. And I don't always have balance. I have a lot of things happening, but not really balance is not really a big part of my life. It's usually how do I juggle as many things as I can and hopefully make it through the day. And but right now everything seems very balanced. Max Out has its place, speaking has its place, podcasting has its place, police work has its place, and being a husband and father, son and friend has its place. And I don't feel like I'm robbing anyone of time, which maybe it's because it's the summer and everybody's off, but I just feel like it's sort of, I'm in a sweet spot. So that's good for me. And Lauren and the kids, for most of you know that they go to the beach for the summer. They come home 1 day a week, maybe twice a week, to get the workouts in at Max Out and go to doctor's appointments, whatever the case might be. But for the most part, I'm home and they're at the beach, and that's been that way for 25 years. And while it's not necessarily always ideal, it is the thing that makes my wife and kids happy. And they love being at the beach, and I would never in a million years want them to not be at the beach. So what I would love to do is figure out a way that I could be at the beach all summer, but I don't see that happening anytime in the near future. But we manage that. It's always been part of our relationship. And my kids have spent every summer of their life at the beach, and so has my wife since she was 5 or 6. So I'm all about creating opportunities for other people, and I certainly want my wife and kids to have everything that makes them happy if I can do it. But I do get lonely. So I have the dog, I have Walter. So I stay busy, and I constantly, whether it's doing home improvements or more business stuff, things that I can fill time with. Luckily, this has been a really good summer as far as getting things done. So I was able to accomplish a lot of things, got a lot of things done around the house, and I'm in a good spot. What else do I got? I'm going to see what I got coming up on the podcast here real quick. So I have Wednesday is Frank Hickson. On Monday, I have Teresa Snyder. She's a speaker, and she does a lot of Facebook Live. She's a media personality type person. She's awesome. We got to talk a couple times. And then on the 26th, I got Tim Rode. So Tim is the founder of One Life, which is the event that I'm speaking at in October. He's got a really fascinating backstory. He's been very successful in real estate, and I think that everybody will really enjoy hearing his story on the show. And then Charles Princeton, I was supposed to have on a while back, but he had a medical emergency with his wife that prohibited him from being on the show. So he's coming on the 2nd of September. And then I have a charity spotlight on the 4th of September. And then nothing super crazy coming up after that. Because I'm trying not to book too much in advance, because I'm not really sure what the show is going to look like. So I think that's about it. Yeah, I think that's about it. So thank you, everybody, for your patience. We will get Eric Bostrom on again real soon. So I would have loved to have had him on tonight, because I think it would have really been a good show. And I think, I don't know anything about motorcycle racing. I know it's nuts, and I watch it and I go, how in the hell are they doing that and not falling off or sliding the bike out? So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about the invention he had. We'll talk about his passion for back pain and helping people get rid of that. And I just think it's pretty cool to have another inventor on the show. So that's it. All right, guys. I will see you Wednesday night, 7 p.m. and with Frank Hickson. And I love you. All right. Thank you for watching this episode of the 2 Dates and a Dash podcast. I'm your host, Matt Cubbler. And until we see each other again, go out and be kind to one another.